Fanny Cochrane Smith and my great grandfather, I showed a book there by Henry Reynolds called Nowhere People, which was about how conceptions of race led to the stolen generations and so on, and breeding out of Aboriginality, a bizarre idea. Henry Reynolds wrote this book the first book of his I read was called Why Weren't We Told? And that was all about how he, as a professor of Australian history, didn't know anything about the hidden history of Australia's massacres, or what I call Australia's longest war, until he came up here to Townsville. He was from Tasmania, he should have known. But it's not his fault, it's society's fault, and he's done a huge amount of work over about 3 decades probably, maybe longer, in bringing this sort of history to light. And so after I read that book, I wrote this song. It's called The War Without a Name, and it's worth thinking about as we approach Remembrance Day. 40,000 died in the war without a name. You won't find it in the history books, but it happened just the same. Talking reconciliation, I'm not talking late. Till we understand our history, we'll be bound by these chains. How could we sing lest we forget, when we never knew, when we never knew? How could we sing lest we forget, when we never knew? We never knew. In 1,000 country towns across this ancient land, in pride of place with solemn grace, the war memorial stands for those who fell across the seas, from Vietnam to France, but not for those who died at home defending their own land. How could we sing lest we forget, when we never knew, when we never knew? How could we sing lest we forget, when we never knew? We never knew. The following account was written by a member of a punitive expedition that was mounted in response to the death of a squatter by spear. They slept soundly, those blacks. We were within revolver shot before our presence was discovered, and by then it was too late. Many of them were wiped out before they could gain their feet. Panic-stricken, they offered no resistance. How those gins and kiddies shrieked when we got among them. Nothing but a black hide escaped that night. In daylight, we returned to view our work of vengeance. Bucks, gins and piccaninnies were lying dead in all directions. Not a thing in the camp moved or breathed. North Queensland Herald, 2nd of February, 1907. There's 1,000 more such stories, but seldom they've been told. We read instead in school books of pioneers bold, for those who when we never knew? How could we sing lest we forget when we never knew? Never knew. 40,000 died in the war without a name. You won't find it in the history books.